Well, Black people are Native Americans. We've had, a lot of proof that, some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty and you've cut off his air. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
That was the dramatization. How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from.
A tribe?
A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank really is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
he
the
didn't
largest...
exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
What kind of face you got, Bill? That Mandinka face.
Mandinka? What foodstuffs that you talking about? That's African. I ain't no African.
Well, I'm Mandinka. We're proud people.
And I'm American. I'm American. I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. And I ain't no African.
Sorry about that, y'all. Sorry I'm running a little bit behind, but how y'all doing? Y'all get in here, get the likes up on the video, because we got to jump right into it, into today's Educational Friday. Shout out to everybody who's in the building. Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button, please, and thank you. Happy Educational Friday to everybody. Please make sure, like I said, y'all hit the like button. Now, today we're going to talk about Lucy and Thornton. Hold on. Y'all get the likes up. Hold on. I got to send these photos. We're talking about the Blackburn Riots. Now, let me tell you why we're talking about the Blackburn Riots. This happened in Detroit. Shout out to Detroit. But it is very important that we understand that, see, they make it seem to us Like we was all just some, we were all just some docile slaves. We didn't do anything. We were always afraid of this, that, and the third. And that's just not the truth, okay? At the end of the day, we fought back heavy. And in Detroit, shout out to Detroit. I love my blacks from my Acorn people from Detroit. But in Detroit, there was a thing called the Blackburn Riots. And basically what it was Lucy and Thornton were former slaves, or were slaves, I'm sorry. And they tried to they arrested them and to bring them back into slavery. And long story short, girl, it got crazy because apparently not only did they stand up, the whole city stood up. Everybody went out there windmilling. Do you hear me? Unalive, the sheriff, all types of stuff. Remember the Educational Friday we were on where I showed y'all in California those prison riots and stuff, all that behind the Soledad brothers and all that stuff. Well, this is kind of the same thing. And this was in the 1820s, 1830s. We were rioting back to back. And it was literally because we were not to be played with. You are not going to come here thinking you can play that BS that you playing somewhere else. And the clears were outnumbered as well. Okay. So what happened was these dudes, this whole city came together, freed their brother and their sister. There was a sister who came in and changed clothes with the lady, with Lucy, and got her off to freedom. And then when they finally told the police, hey girl, yeah, you got the wrong people, the police was like, oh, well, good, you're gonna go in her place. And the city said, the lies you tell. And the city pulled up. And so much so it went down to the ground, and the clears had to just, surrender the people, that is. But we're going to get right into it. Y'all get the likes up on the video really quickly. I don't want to rush this, but I do have to expedite it because I do have somewhere to go. But the point of this Educational Friday, you guys, is this. The reason we don't rebel against anything is not because we're told and indoctrinated that we don't and we won't. And that's a major problem. That is a huge and major problem. And the reason being is because we have done so much in history. Sorry, y'all. We have done so much in history, and we are American history. There is no American history without Black Americans. However, when we get our history from these people, you have to know that they will never tell us the truth. Never. Like, it'll never be a time where they tell us the God's honest truth. And that's what we're dealt with. And that's why first of all, they keep us distracted like crazy. They love to keep us distracted. But even on top of that, the reason that we don't act and react into what we need to act and react for is because outside of the distraction, we're docile. And we have to understand, I would blame it on the church like I have in the past, but in the past, they used the church to be places where they would plot on how to make sure this stuff is taken care of, the riots and all this stuff. So it's just a matter of, we have it in us, we just don't know it. You see what I'm saying? We have no idea, we don't know it. We're stuck in la la land between distractions and the church calming us down through church and through music and all this other stuff. But I thought that this was a great topic to discuss this Friday, because I want to kind of talk about a lot of that stuff more. Okay, so y'all get the likes up on the video. Shout out to everybody in the building, and we're gonna jump right into it. I want to read this article really quickly, then I have a video. But basically, this is what happened. So it says a Detroit escape. That's what this was all about. Born enslavement. Thornton Blackburn was born into enslavement in Kentucky, separated from his mother at a young age. Blackburn was forced to work as a child, including driving carriages and working as a porter. As a teenager, Thornton met Ruthie, later known as Lucy, an enslaved Caribbean-born woman who was working as a nursemaid, okay? Now remember, this is very important and very vital. Shout out to our cousins in the Caribbean. That's why I always say our Caribbean cousins, because they are just that. There was a huge intra-American slave trade that happened. That was way more real than that transatlantic slave trade that we were taught about. Meaning they were shipping people from the north of America to New Orleans, all those shipping ports, Savannah, New Orleans, Virginia, all these. They were shipping people not only within the United States as we know it today, but also back and forth through the Caribbean islands, okay? That we had people coming from all in the Caribbean, all of the South America. That was real prevalent, and it made more sense because, first of all, the waters weren't as troubled as the Atlantic Ocean. You know, remember the ocean gyres that prevented a lot of that travel from coming straight from Africa, from West Africa to South America. The ocean gyres prevented that. However, the intra-American slave trade was very, very vital and very, very key because, first of all, we don't have to travel as far. Secondly, all that 10,000 people on a boat, let's get it up here. All this stuff is capped right here. Because, first of all, they didn't even have the vessels to even make this a reality. Let's start here first. But this right here is another way of mental manipulation. This right here. This right here is another set of mental manipulation to make you think that they were carrying hundreds and sometimes thousands of us from here to Timbuktu. That wasn't the case. When you go look at the documents from all these boats and all these ships going back and forth, it was 10, maybe 20 people tops. 30 if you lucky. This is a farce. This is what they use to mentally manipulate you, to keep you in your place and you don't buck because they don't want you to think this can happen again, or they want you to think that this can happen again. So when they're saying that his wife was a Caribbean, from the Caribbean, it made sense. They were taking slaves or indigenous people from the Caribbeans to America and vice versa. Okay? If anybody on here ever been to any part of the Caribbean, you will know when you get off that plane, them people look just like us, especially the men. And that's for more reasons than one. If you're going to go from a religious standpoint, then they were part of the tribes. It's somewhat like what the Hebrews be talking about, but a little bit more in depth. They are part of the tribes if you go to religious aspect. We are a different set of people on this side of America, or this side of the world, I'm sorry. But if you go through it historically, what you understand is we are genetically different than the African. Okay? It just is what it is. We're genetically different. We have similarities. We have melanin, but we are genetically different. Us on this side is genetically different from them on that side, okay? So, back to where I was going with it. It says Thornton and Ruthie gained permission from their owners to marry in 1831. However, even after they were married, as enslaved persons, they were subject to the whims of their owners. Ruthie was sold to slave owners based in New Orleans, where enslaved women were often forced to become sex workers. Fearing the worst, Blackburn took action, carrying forged papers asserting their freedom. Thornton and Ruthie made their way north. Let me say this. We all know how it was in New Orleans. It's still the same way. You can buy a pizza cooch just as fast as you can buy a cold drink. Okay? There were a lot of brothels, a lot of madams. That was just New Orleans was the sin city of the time. We already know that. So when they were buying these women, it would make sense that they were buying them and shipping them to places like New Orleans to become sex workers because it was lit down there. Remember, I told you between the French, the blacks that were there, the indigenous Niji that were there, it was lit down there. Slavery was quite different in New Orleans than it was across America. Okay? Yes, Tamara talks. Speak about it. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? We met Mama La down in old New Orleans, strutting her stuff on the street. You see what I'm saying? It was lit down there. Slavery looked hella different in New Orleans than it did anywhere else in America. So it would make sense that they were basically trafficking Ruth so that she can be a sex worker because that's how they got down there, okay? All right. So back to the article. It says Thornton and Ruthie navigated the 300-kilometer journey from Kentucky to Michigan largely alone. Once they arrived in Detroit, the Blackburns were welcomed into a small and supportive community of free African Americans or indigenous blacks, okay? It says, but danger was no pass. Thornton and Ruthie were declared fugitive slaves, resulting in their capture, imprisonment, and trial in 1833. The Blackburns were sentenced to return to bondage in the southern United States, but supporters from Detroit's Black community rallied to their cause. On June 16, 1833, Ruthie swapped clothing with a prison visitor and was secreted across the border into Canada. The next day, a crowd overwhelmed Thornton's captors on the docks of the Detroit River, allowing him to make his way to Canada, later known as the Blackburn Riots of 1833. These events sparked one of the first race riots in Detroit's history. It has also established a strong community of skilled, free Black people who made the city an important stop along the Underground Railroad. Okay, this is huge. Remember, even when you think about pastors, think about what's her name? Aretha Franklin daddy. Think about Aretha Franklin daddy. He was one of the major pastors in the early 1900s, and he was like well connected with who? All the people from the South. Listen, this Underground Railroad thing was more than just an actual railroad. It was an underground, it was a movement, okay? The same connection is still made today. The Black people in Detroit literally remind me, I call Detroit the Upper South. Detroit, Chicago, who else? Cleveland. It's certain places up there, in my opinion, from how I look at it, they call the Upper South because we have so much of a connection with these people. First of all, a lot of history as far as ancestry between the South and those places. But ultimately, we've always been connected. Always. Shout out to my Detroit people. Y'all know Chicago, my favorite, but shout out to my Detroit people too. But it's just always been like that. What is always was. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything you did has already been done. So this is major right here when they talked about how they had this whole situation with the Underground Railroad because it was a lot of underground movements happening under the guise of the Underground Railroad that connected us too. Now, let me say this about Canada. Have you guys heard Trump talk about recently how they want to make Canada back a part of the United States? Because basically he said they just grew a fake line in the sand to make it. You see what I'm saying? Yes, St. Louis too, D Magic Bunny, St. Louis too. But think about this. Trump literally just said we need to get Canada back because they just drew a fake line and then called it another country. But basically, Canada has always been America. He's right. He's right. Now, granted, if I'm in Canada, I don't want to be American. I ain't gonna lie. If I'm in Canada, I'm looking at America like y'all got too much going on. I don't want no part. So I don't blame the Canadians. I don't blame the Canadians. However, the thing is, when you talk about Canada and escaping into Canada, once Canada became its own province and did its own thing, they ceased the slavery up there. And that's why a lot of Black Americans moved to Canada. Canada was also a huge hub for the Caribbeans. All those porters, all those people most of those people were Caribbeans. Still to this day, the Caribbeans love going to Canada in 2025. Okay? But we have to keep this in mind when we're discussing this history, because there are indigenous Black people from Canada. You want to know one? What's the guy named from Seneca Village? The Black guy who came from Canada and started Seneca Village, which is now Central Park. Who from New York? I did a whole video on this. Y'all know how I am with names. There was a Black man that came from Canada and started Seneca Village, which is now Central Park. The reason that those people were back and forth like that so crazily is because they've always been back and forth like that. They've always been like that. What the travels and the routes that we're taking today have always been taken. This is nothing new. Okay? So I think we need to understand that. Now, again, I'm not saying that Trump should go get Canada. I don't know nothing about that. That's between the clears. That ain't got nothing to do with me. However, what I'm saying is, these people in these places have always been one. This Turtle Island has always been one island. Mexico included. Okay? Think about what we're talking about here. Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Technically, we shouldn't need passports to go to Mexico nor Canada because it has always been one big island. Turtle Island has always been just that. However, through the years, people been settling places. They've been Spain. They gave them Mexico or that territory, which used to be California and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, all these people were inhabitants of indigenous Black people. Okay? Indigenous Black people. Them fake $5 footlongs up in Canada, that's not the real people. There are indigenous Black indigenous folks that are from Canada, just like there are indigenous Black indigenous folks from Mexico. The tribe of the Suma tribe, that's my tribe. They are indigenous to the landmass in which we call Mexico. Okay, now granted, they later on went up to Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, and all that stuff, and they may have had the so-called ethnogenesis Tariq Nasheed be talking about. Okay, however, all of this landmass, this entire Turtle Island was always Mexico. Always Turtle Island. It was always one. And it's indigenous people, just like in the Caribbean, just like in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti. Them people, they sitting up there talking about all them folks came from Africa. All right. Now, I can't really speak too much on Haiti because I haven't done much of the research on that. But see that all them Caribbeans and all them South America, them are the indigenous. If your family from there, they probably always been there. Okay? Do your genealogy. If you are from the Caribbean or from South America, Puerto Rico, and all that stuff, do your genealogy. Your family probably has always been from there. Talk to the elders too. So now I want to get into this guy. He's going to kind of break down what happened at these riots. And you know what I loved about this? People really stood on business. For real. It wasn't on no oh, let's just woo-doo-woo. No. People stood on the business. We don't stand on business no more. You know what we do in 2025? We get on social media and play like we really mad about some stuff, but we really not. Okay? That's the facts of the situation, okay? Let's get into the guy who's going to give us kind of a breakdown of what happened at these riots. Y'all get the likes up on the video, please. And thank you. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Get the likes up on the video. Let me make it bigger. No, not this. Well, no, let me get it on YouTube so y'all can see it. Get the likes up on the video, y'all, please. And thank you. I appreciate each and everybody in the building.
Blackburn affair, the Blackburn uprising. There is an uprising going on in Jamaica.
And this brother is a Detroit native. So I love to get it from the source's mouth. Shout out to Jai Jordan. He is Jay Jordan or Jai. I can't remember. Jaman. So, okay. Jaman Jordan. He is a Detroit native. So I love to get it from the horse's mouth. Check him out.
Sometimes called the Baptist War, Samuel Sharp's War, Sharp's Rebellion. But it is these Black people who are leading a slave revolt. And they're trying to get free from slavery under the British. The British are in Jamaica. They're enslaving Africans in Jamaica to work on sugar plantations. A group of Africans lead an uprising and led by Samuel Sharp.
I just want to give clarification. He's saying African because we were all taught that all us Blacks just came to this uninhabited lands in Jamaica, in America. They just took us all from Africa. So when he's saying African, don't take that literally because, again, that's what we've been indoctrinated to believe. But we were not Africans. We were indigenous, Niji, indigenous Indians to all these lands, okay? Let's really be clear about that. They called us Indians before they named India. Let's really be clear about that.
And this uprising causes two things. The Africans are killing the slave owners. And so that's a brutal process. But on top of that, the Europeans who are trying to resist or put down this slave rebellion are being brutal to Africans. So there's already a well-established abolitionist movement in England, and the brutality that's occurring in this slave rebellion is giving fuel to the abolitionist movement to be able to impress upon the British Parliament to end slavery. In 1833, the British Parliament ends slavery in the British Empire, partly as a response to this rebellion in Jamaica. It will take place as of 1834. So they vote to end slavery in the British Empire in 1833. It goes into effect the following year, 1834. Before the uprising in Jamaica, Thornton and Lucy Blackburn escaped from slavery in Louisville.
I have a question. Did y'all know about the uprising in Jamaica? Ree, you on here? Ree, did you know about the uprising in Jamaica? Because I didn't know until I started looking at this stuff. Welcome in, Mecca Hernandez. I'm trying to see something, girl. Did you know about the uprising in Jamaica, girl? See? Oh, she said the Maroons. Yep. See, I didn't know about that. Man, look, we got rich history, bro. We really got some rich history. But we gotta make that. All that stuff they're teaching us in school is a bunch of bull, bro. We gotta start teaching our own history. We gotta start teaching our own history. Now you about to make me go look into that, girl. I'm gonna have to go look into that and see what that was about.
Kentucky. Thornton is 19 years old. Lucy, she was Rutha at first, but she changes her name to Lucy when she gets free. Lucy is 27. They are a couple. They love each other, but Lucy has been sold down the river into New Orleans as a fancy woman. And a fancy woman is what we would probably call today human sex trafficking, where the slave owner makes the money from her forced prostitution. Lucy is to be sold into sexual slavery in New Orleans, and Thornton doesn't want that to happen to the woman he loves, and Lucy don't want that to happen to herself. So they escape, and they end up in the city of Detroit. In the city of Detroit, he's a brick mason, she's a seamstress. They're making a living for themselves, overthrowing the myth that people who are enslaved can only do unskilled labor, that all they can do is pick cotton, cut sugarcane, grow rice. No, they can do those things. Slavery in general is really run like a factory. Factories have skilled tradespeople. You need people who can do all kinds of things. So on a plantation, for instance, you need people who can do landscaping. You need people who do carpentry. Mm-hmm. When the clothes get ripped and stuff, you need a tailor who can fix them. You need a cook. You need both executive chef and sous chef, people who can take care of the animals.
Let me say this. Y'all ever heard when y'all talk to the elders in y'all family, or even when y'all look online, y'all ever heard people say, oh, so-and-so was released from slavery and he bought X amount of land, or this person was released from slavery and became a millionaire, or this person was released from slavery. And I always wonder myself, well, damn, who was paying them enough money to buy land, or who was paying them enough money to become how did they? Because listen, when them folks come here, all of the skills that we already had before they come here. Like he just said, like the brother just said, slavery is an institution. You got to have somebody who know how to tend to the fields, who know how to do masonry work, who know how to do engineering. You know what I mean? Who know how? That's the skill. They didn't teach us this. Quiet as it kept. We taught them. They didn't teach us this. We were already doing this stuff. Just like they grabbed up Ruthie, she was a young girl. They needed a sex worker. We got to go get these young, nice-looking girls so that these clears could come down here, and some blacks, so that they can come down here and get the girls of their choice. That it was very strategic, this slavery here. I don't want y'all to think that they was just grabbing random blacks that they didn't know nothing about, like they show us in the movies. They just grabbed random blacks and just threw them out there. No. I need masons. Okay. I know where so-and-so is a mason and he got this, that he did this, that, and the third. Okay, go get him. I need, you know what I mean? A seamstress. Oh, I know Maybelle has been a seamstress for 60 years. Her children, she teach her daughters to be seamstress. And if they have kids, they probably going to be seamstress. Okay, go get Maybelle. You see what I'm saying? So that's what it was very strategic when we start talking about this. It wasn't just no random grab a nigga. Because for why? If you need somebody to tend to babies and I ain't never had no baby or don't know nothing about tending to babies, you're probably not going to want me to work on the plantation tending to babies. You get it? So I just wanted to add that in.
All of these are skilled trades. Brick masons, stone masons, iron and silversmiths. So who does that on the plantation? Monticello, you see the buildings and the structures that are built on Thomas Jefferson's plantation, and they always talk about, and Thomas Jefferson built this, and Thomas Jefferson ain't built none of that stuff. He had 600 people enslaved on his plantation. Thomas Jefferson wasn't building garages and building sheds. It's the people who he's enslaving who are building it. And so this is the kind of skilled trades that Africans have on these plantations.
Why do you think they took trades out of the schools? Anybody ever wonder why they push education over actual trades? At one point, there was a black man who knew how to work on cars, who could fix your roof, who could build you a house, who could build a car. Now, the black people today don't have no skills. That was strategically done. Make you a slave. But one thing about us, it's all in us. We just got to go and reach in, tap in and get it. But it's still in us.
So much work that they did, but it doesn't benefit them. It benefits the slave owner. So they have these skilled trades, but they're not becoming wealthy and prominent because they have these skilled trades. Their slave owners are getting the benefit from these skilled trades until they get free. Once these black people get free, these become businesses for these black people. And they're able to train their children and grandchildren how to do these jobs, how to do these things, so they can create a life for themselves. That's when it benefits black people, once they get free. So Thornton and Lucy are not free. They're in the city of Detroit. He's a brick mason, she's a seamstress. They're making a living for themselves, living right here in the city of Detroit. But under the auspices of the 1793 Fugitive Slave Law, they're not free. So even though they made it to a state, a free state, where slavery has been prohibited by the Northwest Ordinance, they're not free under the 1796 Fugitive Slave Law and under the Northwest Ordinance, which established Michigan as part of the United States, part of the Northwest Territory. There's a fugitive slave clause, which states that even if you make it to one of these free states, you're not free. You are to be returned to your slave owners, and their agents can claim you. That means bounty hunters, slave catchers, patrollers can come and get you and bring you back into slavery. You are not free just because you made it to a so-called free state. So when two slave catchers come to the city of—
Except Texas. Shout out to Texas. In Texas, back in the day, because my great grandfather at 11 years old ran away from Mississippi to Texas to escape slavery. It was him and two other grown men. This is the story in my family. They ran away from him and two other grown men. They wanted to bring some other people, but they got scared. But according to my family history, my third-time great-grandfather, him at 11 years old, went up to Texas, and they were safe there because Texas was one of, if not the only state that you could not activate the fugitive laws. Okay, now my great-great-great-grandfather ended up coming back home. Remember I told y'all about my twice great aunts, Suma in India? When he came home, he had my aunt India in tow and my aunt Suma in the belly. He had married in Texas and he finally came back and they got that land where we at, okay? But again, we already had family there. So I'm just saying, Texas was one of the only places, if not the only place, I'd have to do the research, where they couldn't activate the fugitive slave laws. Shout out to Texas. Shout out to Texas.
Detroit to claim Thornton and Lucy Blackburn. They've been cited in the city of Detroit by a relative of Thornton's slave owner. So a relative of Thornton's slave owner saw Thornton in Detroit. He goes back home and lets folks know. And so slave catchers are brought here. Bounty hunters come to the city of Detroit to capture Thornton and Lucy Blackburn. They pay the sheriff and deputy $50 a piece. The sheriff and deputy assist the two slave catchers in capturing Thornton and Lucy Blackburn. And they're placed in the jail in Detroit. And that jail was located at that time on Gratiot and Farmer, which is behind where the CompuWare building or One Campus Marsh's building is today, or where the Hudson site is, where the old Hudson's building was, and where they're building a new skyscraper. It's behind there. Today, what sits at that site is the Skillman branch of the Detroit Public Library.
See how stuff come full circle? Remember yesterday I was telling y'all that the governor has the power that that you think your president has. Remember, put a one in the chat if you was here on the morning jokes yesterday, and we were talking about these states and how I was telling you if you really want to enact change, you got to get these governors in there. I told you the governor have the power that you think the president has, right? So when you say this, Armand, part of it was because we were our own country. Every state was its own country. Let me say that one more time. Every state was its own country. Why do you think every state has a flag? What makes a country? A military, the National Guard. Hello? What makes a country? A military, a flag. You get it? Yeah. These states in 2025 are still what? Their own countries. Y'all just don't get it because because they got you so laser focused on the president. Look, because they got you so laser focused on the president, you don't even be noticing the governors they be sliding in there, who's actually on the payroll of the people at the top. You get it? So they get the kickbacks to take the federal government's ideals and laws and things of that nature. But the governor could say, Pay attention to y'all governors. Y'all so busy worried about Trump and them. That's one thing. Yes, the senators and the governors. Pay attention to them senators and them governors. You want to see some change? Stop putting in who you want for senator and governor. Watch what happens. Hell, in the movie Civil War on Netflix, it was a few states that got together and created one big military to go against the federal government. Stop acting crazy. Girl, please. Yes.
So it's in downtown Detroit. That's where the jail was before that library got put there. And so they're being held there. And they're going to be held there until a boat comes up the Detroit River to take them to Ohio. Once they get to Ohio, of course, they're probably wagging them down into Kentucky. Lucy's already been sold into slavery in New Orleans. She just needs to be sent there. She's never made it to New Orleans, but she's already been sold into New Orleans as a fancy woman. Thornton, of course, their plan is to take him back into Louisville where he'd be enslaved, but of course he'd be punished, severely punished for this escape. Well, a group of Black people have a meeting at the home of Benjamin Willoughby. Benjamin Willoughby is a prominent African-American, prominent Black man in the city of Detroit, owns a business, has good relationships with other prominent people in the city of Detroit, including some white folks. And it's at his home where the meeting is held. And so Black people are meeting at the home of Benjamin Willoughby, and there are women who are leaders in that meeting. They're not just there serving tea and cookies. Anytime that Black people have made progress, Black women have been at the forefront of that progress, whether it was at the Underground Railroad, the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power Movement, the labor movement, the women's movement, starting businesses, starting churches, education. Black women have always been at the forefront of Black people's progress. Sometimes when we tell the history, we leave the women out and make it seem like the men did it all by themselves. That's the wrong way to view this history. We have to look at how the history actually happened. And when we look at how the history really happened, women are doing all this stuff. It's just how when we tell it, women are missing from the story. Two women there who are part of this meeting, Caroline French and Tabitha Lightfoot, they're young women, but they're just as active in the leadership of this plan as everybody else. And they're coming up with a way to free Thornton and Lucy Blackburn. That's their friends. And they don't want this to happen. Number one, they don't want it to happen because it's their friends. Number two, they don't want it to happen because they don't want a trend to be created where slave catchers can come to the city of Detroit, grab people and take them back into slavery and nobody does anything.
They are setting a precedence. What they're saying is, hey, number one, that's our partners. Number two, y'all not about to think y'all gonna just be coming in and out of Detroit, grabbing up niggas, talking about you bringing them back to nowhere. Period, point blank. When I tell you standing on business, I love that he gave credence to the Black women and their contribution to this whole thing. But listen to what I'm saying. Shout out to the black people in Detroit. They stood on all 10. See, first of all, that's my partner. Secondly, what you not about to do is make a trend of this shit. Yeah, y'all not about to be running it up out of here. Not about to do it. So yeah, we about to stand on 10 so y'all can know it's up. You know what I'm saying? So the next one come through here. You know what I'm saying? Y'all could. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hold on one second.
And so they care about Thornton and Lucy Blackburn, and they care about the black community, particularly the freedom-seeking community, people who've escaped from slavery. They care about them in general. So they're coming up with a plan to free Thornton and Lucy Blackburn. This is Friday, June 14th, 1833. So that's Friday. And Saturday, there's probably still trying to work out this plan. Sunday, most of the people who are the leadership of the group go to church. Many of them are members of First Baptist Church. First Baptist Church is a predominantly white church, but it does have some significant black members, including the Lightfoots, Tabitha and her husband, Madison, the Frenches, George and his wife, Caroline French. They go to church on Sunday, but after church, they go down to the jail to visit Thornton and Lucy.
I wonder if Lucille, what's her name is? Lightfoot, Lori Lightfoot. I wonder if that's her people, because ain't she from out the like Chicago area? You never know.
Blackburn. Thornton is not allowed to have any visitors. He is actually behind bars in shackles, as if the bars aren't enough for this man. We got to have him in chains behind the bars because we're so worried about this guy.
Do that genealogy.
But Lucy, they're not worried about her. So she is allowed to have visitors, and she's not in chains behind bars. They don't see her as much of a threat. Big mistake on their part. Caroline French and Tabitha Lightfoot go in the jail cell with Lucy Blackburn. And while in the jail cell, they prayed with her because they believed in the power of prayer. And they brought her some food because jail food is horrible. Still is to this day. Don't ask me how I know. But jail food is horrible. While they're feeding her and praying with her, Caroline French switches clothes with Lucy Blackburn inside of the jail cell. When the sheriff comes to the jail cell to tell the women that visiting is over, Tabitha Lightfoot walks out with Lucy Blackburn wearing Caroline French's clothes. The sheriff does not know the difference. This black woman leaves out with another black woman. They put her on a boat and send her over to Canada, where she is now free. The next morning, Caroline French alerts the sheriff to who she is. You, Mr. Sheriff, guess what? I'm Caroline French. Remember, I came here yesterday to visit Lucy Blackburn. You weren't paying attention. We changed clothes. We switched. She walked right by you and you didn't even know. Now, our plan was to put her on a boat and get her to Canada. So by now, she's probably in Canada. So she's free. And I'm free too. You better let me go. This is what Caroline French is really letting them know. Now, these are bounty hunters who have captured them. Bounty hunters make money for bringing people back. They don't make money for coming back empty-handed. They've lost Lucy Blackburn. So they say, basically, you switch.
What was the movie Django? Y'all seen the movie Django? That Clear Man and Django were what people? Bounty hunters. That was their job. The Clear Man was able to get Django as a freeman, remember? Because there were black people who were bounty hunters too. Don't ever get it twisted. Hell, the movie Denzel played in, where he was the only one could speak to the indigenous people or the Native American people. What was his job? A bounty hunter. See how this shit come back full circle? Dr. Schultz, that's his name. Dr. Schultz. So they had black bounty hunters, they had clear bounty hunters. And the reason was this was a job. Hey, you see them, you remember them old posters, wanted, dead or alive? You got to bring the people who they asking for. Okay, what's the movie with Denzel? I was just thinking about that the other day. Not The Harder They Fall. It's a movie with Denzel where it's basically early America, and he has to go into these Native American tribes, and none of the clear people can speak to him in the language except Denzel, probably because the Native Americans were $5 footlongs and their whole history and their whole identity came from us anyway. Is it the Hard Eight? Is something like that, the Hard Eight or something like that? Magnificent Seven. That's what it was. Magnificent Seven. Y'all go see that movie. That movie's so good. I saw it years ago. I'm gonna rewatch it. Magnificent Seven. Go watch that movie. He was a bounty hunter. Django and Dr. Schultz were what? Bounty hunters. That was a real job. Okay? Yes, go watch that movie. It's super duper good. Super. And remember they ate the deer heart? On the Denzel and the Magnificent Seven, they ate the deer heart, but Denzel knew to do that. They be telling y'all the truth, bro. Let's move on.
You gonna switch, and we gonna sell you to make up whatever we can in the loss of Lucy. And Caroline French is basically like, I'm from Detroit. Plus I'm from the East Side. Not gonna happen. When they walk out of that jail, there's 400 people outside. They got bricks, sticks, knives, swords, tree branches, poles. Some of them have guns. And so they let Caroline French go. They realize they outnumbered. They got to let Caroline French go, hoping that will quell the crowd and send them back home. But the crowd is there for Thornton too. They're not just there for Lucy. Lucy is released after the crowd is outside, and there are people who bring in documents from family members and friends of the family and even prominent white folks in Detroit saying they got to let Lucy go. So they let Lucy go because they're worried about this crowd and they're worried about the pressure from the prominent people that her family knows. But now they're going to try to make it through this crowd with Thornton, and they're not going to be able to make it through the crowd. The crowd is going to break the back wheels of the wagon. They surround the wagon. Thornton is in the wagon. The two slave catchers and the sheriff and the deputy, they got weapons, but not enough for 400 people.
Hey, don't let that part go over your head when he said they don't know who her family is. See, we've been taught that all black people were less than and nothing. Listen to what he said.
So they let Lucy go because they're worried about this crowd and they're worried about the pressure from the prominent people that her family knows.
Now, if we were all less than and slaves, remember they said it was black people going to this church that was a predominantly white church. However, these people were very well connected. Who was her family to where the sheriff and all them folks had to worry about who she might know? Black people had status too. We've always had status. Always. We weren't all slaves. That's why this reparations through slavery thing gonna fall apart for a lot of people. Do your genealogy. Everybody wasn't slaves, bro. It actually wasn't as many slaves as you think it was.
But now they're going to try to make it through this crowd with Thornton, and they're not going to be able to make it through the crowd. The crowd is going to break the back wheels of the wagon. They surround the wagon. Thornton is in the wagon. The two slave catchers and the sheriff and the deputy, they got weapons, but not enough for 400 people. Even if they get 4 shots off with their shotguns, after that, it's over. You can get your 4 shots off. Maybe you hit 4 people, but then the other 396 or so will you. So they realize their life is in danger. They can do the math and realize that their guns are of no use with a mob this large.
Yeah,
and so it's Thornton who offers to save them. Thornton says they're not going to move for you. You can keep threatening them and waving those guns all you want, but they're not going to move for you, but they'll move for me. Let me talk to the crowd. And the deputy allows Thornton to talk to the crowd. Thornton is in the wagon. He's talking. Crowd is kind of noisy. Plus, Thornton is not speaking loudly, so they can't hear him. So members of the crowd move in closer to try to hear what Thornton is saying. And they get so close that Madison Lightfoot, Tabitha's husband, hands Thornton a gun. Once Thornton gets that gun in his hand, it's become very clear what he's saying. Now, you better let me go. I'm gonna shoot y'all. Madison Lightfoot, who gave him the gun, said, kill him.
Thanks.
Shoot them all. And so there's this, again, there's this history of fighting for freedom, and there's also this history of by any means necessary. Detroit.
Hey, Madison gave him the blicky, and he was over there talking about what he gonna do. Madison said, man, fuck all that. Pop these upside the head, my nigga. Like, you talking. She gave Thornton the blicky, Thornton waving the blicky, oh, I'm gonna kill everybody. No. What my girl Madison said, man, pop him. What's up? You playing. Talk about how he was. My girl said, man, you playing. Pop these motherfuckers, man. You tripping. You tripping. You talking about what you gonna do? Pop these. Watch out. I love that about her. Watch out.
Not known for nonviolent civil disobedience. And Madison Lightfoot, who says kill him, shoot them all, is Reverend Madison Lightfoot. So the Reverend is telling him to kill everybody. Thornton doesn't do it though. Thornton does not do what but he shoots in the air. But once he does that, that's like the signal to go off. So everybody's unleashing whatever they got. The sheriff is hit with items. He's also thrown to the ground. He is no longer a part of the standoff. He's injured severely and will die a while later from those injuries. But at that night, he's out. The deputy has to flee for his life to keep from being torn apart. And the two slave catchers have to keep the crowd at bay with their guns and get out the way so that they don't get killed. But while all that is happening, the crowd has taken Thornton, put him on a wagon. That wagon takes off to the river. He's put on a boat, crosses over the river, reunited with his wife, Lucy, and they are free in Canada. What the city does is they arrest as many people as they can. Some people weren't even involved in the uprising, but because they're Black, they get arrested. The city council comes up with 5 ordinances. Negroes and mulattoes who come to the city of Detroit have to pay a $500 fee to the county clerk. And they're going to vigorously enforce this. Negroes and mulattoes who come to Detroit have to pay a $500 fee to the county clerk. If you don't pay it, and if you haven't paid it, they're looking for you. So a whole bunch of Black people leave Detroit until this all blows over. Second, Negroes and mulattoes must be off the streets by 9 p.m. It is the first curfew that we have record of in Michigan's history. And this curfew is not, for safety reasons. This curfew is for Black people. Keep y'all off the streets. So you're not helping people escape from slavery, and you're not leading the uprising to help people get free from slavery. The third one is if it's dark, but not 9 p.m., Black people have to carry a lantern. Negroes must carry a lantern in front of them. It's a lantern law, basically saying that we got to be able to see you, and then you got to identify yourself to any white person and what your business and state what your business is in the streets. And then the next one is Negroes cannot dock their boats on the Detroit River. They realize these Black folks must have had some boats. How did they get them over to Canada? So you know what? We're just gonna keep them from having boats. So now can't have no more boats. Can't dock your boats on the Detroit River, which is basically saying you can't have a boat. The last one is a 16-man patrol will be created that will enforce these new ordinances and will patrol the docks to make sure that there aren't people escaping from slavery and there aren't people helping people escape from slavery. And they'll assist the deputy and sheriff in case another uprising occurs. So it's not the deputy and the sheriff out there by themselves. Is they have a backup 16-man patrol. So this is what will be created. After that.
Do you see how they disarmed the Black people in Detroit? They put them on a curfew. You have to be able to identify yourself to anybody who's clear. You have to have a lantern. You feel me? $500 to even be there. Oh, and by the way, you can't have no boat. See how they disarmed us? And guess what? Blacks was like, you know what? Screw it. We'll just go over here then. We'll just go. Where do people go from Detroit frequently? Where do people from Detroit frequently go back and forth from? Because what's now has always been. Let's really be clear about that. Who's from the Detroit area? If you're from the Detroit area, there's a place from that the Detroiters always go back and forth, or they have family there, because it's the same in New Orleans. Most of us got family in Mississippi or Texas. Canada, okay. So they probably disbanded, went up to Canada, let it all fall out. You feel what I'm saying? And then come on back. What has been is now. What is now has always been. Okay? Okay? Be clear about that. So if the Canada is the place where a lot of Detroiters go back and forth, we've always done that. We've always done that. Okay? So I'm telling you, you go do the history and ask about it. I haven't done the history, but I understand how our patterns are as a people. I'm just saying, if that's where they was going, if that's where they go now, that's where they was going back then. That's probably where they disbanded to when they put all them laws up.
The mayor, Marshall Chapin, the governor, Stephen T. Mason, and the president of the United States, Andrew Jackson, petitioned Canada to send Thornton and Lucy Blackburn back. Canada has agreed in their treaty to send.
Why are doctors using these strange pouches to eliminate disease-spreading rodents in 24 hours? Watch.
any felons from the United States back to the United States. The United States has agreed that any felons from Canada who come to the United States will be extradited. It's an extradition treaty. And so they're arguing that these people incited a riot that caused the death of a sheriff. That's the felony. And so you got to send them back. This makes it to the highest court in Canada. The Canadian courts rule that if we send them back, their slave owners are going to claim them. We're sending them back to slavery if we send them back. So we'd be sending them back to a penalty that our country no longer has. But their country just no longer has that. This just happened in 1834 because of an uprising in Jamaica, which caused England to end slavery in the British Empire. Had this happened 5 years before, that wouldn't have been the case. Canada would have still had slavery. That international event in Jamaica changed British policy, which changed Canadian policy, which made Canada tell the United States, we're not sending them back. And so Thornton and Lucy Blackburn will move to Toronto, start the first taxi company in the city of Toronto, build 5 homes for other people who escaped. Thornton will come back to the city of Detroit secretly, go back to Louisville, Kentucky secretly, and save his mother, Sibby Blackburn, from slavery. She'll live her final years with her son and daughter-in-law in freedom. And the people who led the uprising to free Thornton and Lucy Blackburn, just about all of them will leave First Baptist Church and found Second Baptist Church, the oldest Black church in the state of Michigan, the foundation for the Underground Railroad, the first school for Black people. Because see, for Black people, faith and freedom go hand in hand. They're the same thing. So the same people who are helping people escape from slavery are the same people starting churches. If you were to go back in time and you was looking for where the Black people are being hidden, you just go right to the churches. That's where they consider that part of your faith. You are a true faithful believer if you ain't helping people escape and get freedom. And you ain't a true believer in freedom if you're not educating people. They believe that education is part of freedom. Faith and freedom go hand in hand, and education is a part of that freedom fight. That church 30 churches will come out of that church, 2 of which were in Canada. One of them in Canada is called First Baptist of Sandwich, or Sandwich First Baptist. The first pastor at Sandwich First Baptist is Madison Lightfoot, the pastor who gave Thornton the gun.
Yeah.
Second Baptist is founded in the home of Caroline French, the woman who switched clothes with Lucy Blackburn. That's where the church was founded. It's been in Greektown since 1857. That was not even Greektown in 1857. There weren't Greek immigrants in Detroit in 1857. That's part of Black Bottom. And it's the oldest Black church. 30 churches come out of it. It's where the first Black institutions, first Black organizations, first Black civil rights fights all come out of that church. And it'll be followed by 2 other churches in the city of Detroit, of course, Bethel AME and St. Matthew's Episcopal Church. And these churches are helping people establish themselves in education, civil rights, and in business. Many of those first loans that people are getting to start a business and those first connections, networking with other business people, are in these churches. So they're either getting loans directly from the church or from members of the church. These businesses will begin to be created out of this connection between faith and freedom. And eventually you have a whole business district, which is known as Paradise Valley by the time we get to the Great Migration period.
Wow. Paradise Valley. Now I gotta do some research on the Paradise Valley part. But remember, I told y'all as well, I said, listen, I said it wasn't only Tulsa that had the Wall Street, the Black Wall Street. I told y'all New Orleans had a Black Wall Street, Claiborne, where they put the I-10. Okay. Detroit had Paradise Valley, which was another predominantly Black, extremely successful Wall Street. They only give you one because they don't want you to know that y'all were actually successful people. Y'all were the people at one point who really was running this thing. They don't want you to know that. So they give you 1 or 2. Oh, give them Rosewood. Oh, give them Tulsa. You know what I'm saying? But we were successful all over America, okay? Because we had boats. That's how we was able to get people back and forth. Come on, man. It's just that history won't tell us that because they don't want us to think independently or think that we could possibly, at any given time, do anything for ourselves. They want us completely and utterly dependent on them. Okay? Y'all. Oh, your master's dissertation was on it? Oh, that's what's up. All right, Dina Nicole. Okay, girl. I bet you it was lit too. You probably know more information about it than I do, because I just kind of did like a brush off type of thing. But ultimately, I'm pretty sure if you did that type of research, you did more extensive than I have. But I wanted to bring this to us because I feel like that's stuff we need to talk about more, because our self-esteem in the Black American community is in the ditch. We done went from fighting for what we wanted to begging for what we want. We done went from being upstanding Black people to defeated. And we have never been defeated. Over a large period of time, yes, they have been able to manipulate some things, but we've never been defeated. We are not a defeated people. That's why the resilience we say we have when we talk about slavery and we talk about them burning down Wall Street, that resilience has always been there. Yes, proudly peculiar. We went from creators to consumer. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt at all. Without a doubt. Out the Matrix, thank you for the super chat. Happy belated birthday, Miss Voodoo. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But I wanted to bring that to y'all, like I said, y'all, because I got to get off. But I wanted to bring that to you guys to show y'all a little bit of history. They got so much stuff that I have that I want to come on here and talk to y'all about. But the Blackburn Riots with Thornton and Lucy, listen, that I think that needs to be talked about more. Us rebelling and us having an uprising, because so often we taught about being beaten with chains, which we don't have nothing of. Them people got dinosaur bones, but don't have the slave ships. Stop it. It's just a mental manipulation. That's all it is. But with that being said, y'all, I got to get off here. I will see y'all tomorrow morning at the Dollhouse, or tomorrow sometime at the Dollhouse. I love each and every one of y'all. Shout out to my Educational Friday people. Make sure you like the video before I get off of here, because we have to get the video in the algorithm. And I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one, okay? Make sure y'all take care of each other. And let me see. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, y'all. Peace.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2. We live, baby. Come on. That's right. Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go. It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up. Come on, Blaze up.
It's the beat for me.
Wah 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 wah. For your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we are. For your boy. For your boy. Also for your boy. Fix it for your boy. Drop it for your, lift it up. Then it bust it open, lift it up. Yeah, come on, lift it up. Then it bust it open for your B-O-Y. Then it for your rockin' for your, lift it up, baby. Mix it with your bustin' up. Come on, Blaze, you know. Drop me a nasty beat.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.